This is the Real Estate Sit Down presented by Double B Homes. My name is Blair Berg, and today I'm joined by Parker Pemberton. Parker is the team leader of the Pemberton Home Team, which is the number one EXP team in Minnesota, number 10 nationally. He even spoke on stage at a Tom Ferry event yesterday, so I'm excited to have him on. Thanks for joining me, Parker.
Yeah, of course. Of course.
So let's just dive right into your background. You from the area here in Minnesota?
Yeah, I'm from Apple Valley.
Okay, great. And then, so real estate. What did you do before real estate?
That's a great question. So, my whole life was around sports. It was around growing up. It was hockey at a very high level and golf. Through high school, I ended up going to school in New Mexico on a golf scholarship. Um, I spent 5 years there focusing on golf.
Yeah.
And afterwards, I played professionally for 5 years. So
Nice.
that's still a big part of my identity and who I am and the decisions I make and just the kind of the person that I am.
Yeah.
But when it was time to shut that down, not only was I not good enough to make it, but I got hurt. I tore my shoulder, had several surgeries on it, and it was kind of a reminder of, hey, we're 25, let's get on with life. Let's go find the next thing. So I moved home. Had absolutely no idea what I was going to do. My dad is a real estate agent and was a real estate agent. Would have been easy just to join him and start then. But I didn't want to. So I went back to what I knew back in the golf days. In the summers, I would cut grass and I would do landscaping projects, and it would get me outside and it would get me talking to people. And I'd be, hanging out in a backyard versus in an office. And I like that.
Yep.
And I like the freedom of that lifestyle. And so I literally just went door to door with a lawnmower. I know this sounds really silly, but 25 years old, asking neighbors if they needed their lawn professionally managed. And, it started small, but I think first week I had about 10 accounts, $25 a yard. Up at the end, it ended up averaging about 40 a yard. So if anyone's listening to this and you want to do some math, I'd use 40 a property. And that turned into 100, and then that turned into 200, and that turned into 500. And then technically I was running like the biggest residential lawn care and landscaping operation in the South Metro.
Mm-hmm.
And it was called Go-To Guys. And so I learned a lot through that. And, the similarity here, if you don't mind me sharing, is that it's lawn care was so similar to real estate, right?
Well, I'm noticing a pattern and we'll get into it later, but the growth of your real estate business sounds a lot like the growth of your lawn care business.
Yeah. And I think that goes back to being a golfer, being a professional athlete, being the son of somebody who was growth minded, who wanted to have great things in life. That abundance mindset was instilled in me as a young kid, which I'm thankful for. But golf really brings out that in you because, if you're a golfer, and it's a whole different level if you're a competitive golfer. But if you're a golfer, you know that every day you play, you can be a little bit better the next day. There's always something you can work on. There's one shot here. There's one shot there. There's one little thing in your swing, or maybe you didn't putt well today, but you drove it well. Maybe you drove it well, but you didn't putt well. And it's the reason people become so obsessed with golf is because it's impossible to be perfect. And so it brings you back each and every day because you might hit that next great shot. You might get a little bit better. And I relate golf to business. It's directly correlated to business because no matter how good a day goes, it can always be just a little bit better.
Yep.
And I think that that's what drives me in every day is just waking up saying, how can we be a little bit better today? How can we improve the experience of the agent? Or how can I make the staff better? Or how can I treat the staff better? Or how can I introduce a new system? Like there's just always something.
Yeah.
And so with lawn care, it was the same thing. You go out, there's a sales aspect to it. You have to convince somebody that you're the best for the job. You service them. You get hired first, then you service them at a very high level. And, I was competing against guys that show up, hopefully I was drunk, high, chew spit on their shirts, wearing the same clothes from last night.
Yep.
Like that was my competition. So I showed up, golf khakis, white polo, logoed up, hair done. Like I tried to be different. I tried to be really professional to make
the go-to guys.
The go-to guys.
Yeah.
Exactly. And so that led to people telling other people about us. So once we've completed a sale, we got a contract. Now we service the client. Then we get reviews from the client. Then we get referrals from the client. And it just starts to snowball from there.
Yeah.
And so that was instilled in me that I had that experience coming into real estate. and it's the exact same thing.
Yeah.
So for me, it's always been every day I wake up, I'm unemployed. I mean, people will say that in real estate. It's so true. Like
Mhm.
if we don't sell something today, we technically don't make any money.
Correct.
And my dad, after 40 years of doing this, if my dad doesn't sell a house, not anymore because we have a legitimate business, but if my dad was still a solo agent after 40 years and he hung it up, there's no one to say, "Hey, congrats on 40 years. Here's your
Yeah.
retirement package or your severance or your
Exactly.
whatever." So every day I wake up, man, like we got to do something positive. And that's truly the mindset that I have.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense too. I got a chuckle too, and you're like, 5 years I was focusing on golf. I spent like 6 years chasing the lacrosse dream across colleges, so I totally get that. But yeah, like I said, I think, and we'll get into it. I think that's your approach is very reflective of how you've built your business. So your real estate journey, you were doing lawn care stuff. When did you make the transition to real estate?
Yeah. So I had a business partner. I sold off a lot of those accounts to that business partner. It was right as I knew Kathy and I were going to get married, and I was, I was running this large business, but I wasn't making the money I wanted to make,
Yeah.
and I kind of saw the writing on the wall that I either had to get out of operation of that business and just sell it, or I needed to just remove it entirely and go on to something else. So I didn't see the capacity in lawn care as I saw in real estate, or I shouldn't say the capacity, the ceiling, the ability to make more and do better, and the abundance mindset. So I just said, it's time to go. I'm going to get married. Let's do this. So I got licensed on my 30th birthday. I scheduled that. I went out to Hudson, Wisconsin. The person that the proctor or whatever behind the glass is like, "I'll send you your results in 2 weeks." I'm like, "No, you're going to show me right now." I'm like, "No, that's not what we do. We send it out. We email it to you." I'm like, "No, you're going to show me your computer right now. It's my birthday. I'm going to find out if I'm licensed or not.
Yeah.
This is going to be a memorable day for me." And I legitimately got probably the most aggressive I've ever been. And I made them show me that I passed.
Nice.
So we went out to dinner. I knew I was licensed. And it was just, first thing was lead generation. Where am I going to find my first client? Where is that next person going to come from that I can help? And that's true from that day to today. It's, where is the next person coming from? I think real estate agents get wrapped up in this world of like, "Ooh, I'm a real estate agent. I can drive a nice car that I can write off. I can wear a suit. I can look cool. I can do this on social media." Dude, it's, real estate is literally lead generation.
Yep.
Because if you don't lead generate, you have nobody to sell homes to.
Mhm.
If you don't continue to produce and continue to generate leads and people that you can help, you're going to be out of business.
Yeah.
So I think I'm very fortunate to have the background that I have, the mindset that I have. And I think that's played a part in where we're at today.
Yeah, and I think that's huge. And I think a lot of people forget that. They get their license, they get to the office, and they're like, "All right, where are the houses?" They don't know where to get their leads. And I think they spend a lot of time preparing for the licensing test, which is great. Obviously, you get a lot of good legal information, but it doesn't teach you how to do the job. So I think very early on, it's important to get a mentor and have that, like, we need to get lead gen going or else this isn't going to work. So I think that's a really good background to have. And it's reflective just on the way you run your business. So you kind of touched on why you started, and I'm assuming, and for everyone listening, Steve, Parker's dad, is also a member of the team and has been doing it for a long time. When did he start doing?
1978.
1978. So, and you probably saw his like really cool suits and you're like, well, I could make a lot of money in real estate. So let's make that transition. So give us kind of your real estate journey up to this point. Like, I know a big thing is like right away, you're always like, I did 100 houses my first year. So 100 houses your first year. That's awesome. Take us from there.
Yeah. I mean, and remember, like, I have advantages that very few have. I feel like if I don't do what I do, if I don't work so hard, if I'm not so passionately involved in this business, that I'm giving up one of the best opportunities that any human being in the country could have and doesn't have. And that's having a dad in real estate that can show you the way of, this is how you do this. This is how you do that. Keep me out of, deep shit. Right.
Mhm.
Trust me, that first year selling 100 homes, like, I got in plenty of trouble doing things wrong. And like I said yesterday with Tom, I said, I felt like I was bowling down an alley that had gutters, or those rubber gutter guards up, right? You just chuck me down the lane and I'm just going to bounce off stuff until I hit some pins.
Mhm.
And that was huge until I became experienced enough to be able to really protect myself, right? So when you do 100 deals in a year, you go through so many different situations of not only human emotion but transactional issues, right?
Yep.
So I learned a lot, and I learned that no human being can technically sell 100 homes a year and sustain that for a number of years unless you start to leverage your time and your efforts, and that starts with staff. I knew that because every day I woke up, I knew that my job was to lead generate, to lead convert, and lead follow up. The three L's. And in my spare time, I created content on social media.
Yep.
And people still will tell you today. Ricky Caruth will go on his Instagram channel. Great follow, by the way.
Great follow.
80% of your time should be lead generation, 20% should be content and marketing. I couldn't agree more. And so I knew that if I kept doing those things, I could build a business that would grow. And then I needed people to help service that business.
Yep.
And that's when the concept of a team really started to come around, because the first person that I hired was a transaction coordinator. So I wasn't doing my paperwork and I wasn't writing my amendments and addendums and all of that. I had somebody to help so I could go on more appointments. But I spent that time with the 3 L's: lead generating, lead converting, and lead follow-up, because I knew that was going to lead to the next thing. And so when we started to really scale this, I started to hire people to do the things that was making me successful while I was out teaching real estate to other people and creating systems and processes for other people to be successful.
Yep.
I understand that, like, coming out of the business selling 100 homes in your first year is not normal. Like, I could maybe count on one hand the number of people that I know that did that. And it takes an enormous amount of effort and strategy and commitment to do that. But I also knew that I have now 100 referral partners. I have 100 people that I sold homes to that like me, trust me, that I knocked it out of the park for, that left me Zillow reviews and Google reviews. What are we doing to build that from there? Because that for a lot of realtors, 100 sales is plenty for your entire career.
Yeah. Well, and just to add to what you're saying really quick before you continue, is that I think there are too many agents that treat a deal as a one and done thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's like they get the lead, they never really get to know them, they make the sale, and then it's adios, see you later. So yes, getting good reviews, keeping in touch with those people, it's like those will help your business exponentially down the line for years to come.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And that led to just continuing to scale. So we had the lead systems in place. We had the follow-up in place. We knew how to convert. We were one of the top converting teams in the country. At the time, Zillow asked me to be on the advisory board because of our performance. It was so high. And so I served on the board for 2 years. It was a great experience. Everything that's happening today, they were talking about in those boardrooms back then. So it gave me some insight into what was coming, and that positioned our team to be that team that was on the front line of what was coming.
Yeah.
So that was huge. And as a team leader, your entire mission is to get the best accounts for your team, hire the best people, have the best systems, processes. Like, if you feel like any of those are inadequate, you need to go and strengthen each of those departments, or those silos, I call them.
Yep.
Staff, systems, or opportunity. Because that's what a team is. That's why people want to be on a team. They want to be coached. They want to know that the systems are going to make their job easier, and they want to know that the opportunity is there.
Yeah, and that totally makes sense. I mean, not to get too deep into what I was doing, but I mean, I was a solo agent before this, and I just came to you for information on changing brokerages to EXP, and then like a week later, I was on your team. Mm-hmm. So it just, and I said it to Tom yesterday, and when you were speaking, I wanted to chime in even and say, there was a gentleman who asked, how do you get agents to join your team? And I kind of want to say, be the person that person wants to emulate. I mean, that's why I joined your business, is because, like, I'm like, down the road, I would like to be a lot like Parker. Mm-hmm. So, and I think if you conduct business in a way where other agents see that and say, that's how I want to run a business, or that's how I would like a business to be run, behave in that manner and people will join your team.
For sure. Yeah. I think there's if you just look this is an hour-long conversation, but you look at the biggest brokerages out there, what they lack is they lack that local leadership, the proximity to the person who is really keeping that company in check. Because you've got the presidents, the vice presidents, the regional managers, the marketplace center owners, the team leaders, the managers. You got these layers and layers and layers. But with a team, everybody here has access to me directly.
Yep.
So for me to be relevant and present in people's lives is extremely important. And that's something that we're working on at all times, because I personally only have 24 hours a day, just like everybody else.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, I want people to know that I actually struggled. I went through the same things that they went through. I know how to get through those things. I can give advice, and then it's on the person to put in the work.
Yeah, and I mean it's all theory until you actually execute. So that totally makes sense. So we already talked about when you decided to start the team, you knew it was the right time because it's like you got to that limit where the only way you could grow is by leveraging your time. And you even said your first hire was a TC,
Yeah.
transaction coordinator. Where did you move from there? So it's like you got the transaction coordinator, then did you continue business for a while and then say, hey, now I need X?
Yeah. The next piece that comes in is marketing help, right?
Okay.
Nothing like we have today. This was more like a personal assistant that also could do some graphic work and help with social media and alleviate some of the things that come with social media,
Yeah.
right? Today, I mean, just look at the equipment we're using. Like, it's a whole different, the skill set of the people here is so much different, right? But early on, just that
Thanks,
little
Hannah.
amount, that little amount of help was able to get me to continue to go on more appointments and to be with the agents that we were starting to hire. And that's super important because there's, like I spoke about yesterday, there's so many team leaders out there that are still selling 50 plus homes that have these teams on the side, and the agents need them, but they're not available because they're on appointments.
Yeah.
And don't get me wrong, like, I'm not calling these team leaders out. It's extremely hard to get to where we're at today. It's extremely hard to get out of production personally, but you have to strive to put those pieces in place to give the value to the agent. Otherwise, the agent's not going to feel valued at all.
Well, and I get, and especially when you come from a competitive background such as yourself, and I think a lot of people get into this business because they're like, I want to make sales. They're competitive. So then when you know that it's time to take a step back into more of a managerial role, you're like, then you're behind the desk and you're like, I want to be back out there closing deals. So that totally makes sense that it would be tough to step away. And this is, I think, a question that came up a lot yesterday when you were talking about this subject at the convention is how do you identify good hires for your team?
When it
Like,
comes to staff, well, there's two different hires. There's staff and there's agents, right? Staff you can obviously identify through sales experience and a series of interviews and asking the right questions, and you can usually get your way to the next great hire, right?
yep.
Staff's different. It's easier to hire great staff because there's more great people. Real estate agents, I'll tell you right now, and if anybody says anything different, it's impossible to tell who's going to be good or who's going to be bad. Because I've had absolute 5-star, just amazing recruits come in and talk with me that turn out terrible in real estate. I have people come in here that are unpolished, and they're like, in the back of my head, I'm like, it's going to be hard for this person to make it, and they end up being a rock star.
Yeah.
You cannot. That's the biggest thing I've learned. I've interviewed hundreds of people, if not potentially thousands of people, and it's impossible to tell who's going to turn out to be great. So what you have to do is you have to hire based on personality traits and the person that they are, and hope that you can mold them into somebody that's going to work really hard and work out.
Yeah. And make sure that they just don't burn all your time and equipment doing podcasts in your office. So,
No, I mean, so this is great too. Like, whatever your thing is, have a thing and go deep with it. This will produce 5 years down the road. The best thing about podcasts and videos is this is like hiring an assistant that will work for you for free, because somebody 2 years down the road is gonna find you on YouTube and hear this video that we had, this podcast that we had, and they're gonna get something of value out of it. And guess what? That just worked for you for free for 2 years, right?
yeah, I mean, and that's definitely the hope for sure. So identifying good hires. So I think, and you made a good point, I think there's a lot of hiring managers out there and stuff too that think that there's this secret like look in somebody's eye, or they think they're going to know just by looking at it. But as you said, like, you can't really tell. You can't really tell until they get in there. Is there, I guess, on the opposite side of the scale, is there like something, is there ever times you meet with people and like, this is a potential agent, and then you're like, no, it's just not gonna, like, is there a personality trait or something you're just like, no?
Yeah, I mean, 75% of the time we meet with somebody and we decide they're not a fit for the team. I mean, that's the team today doesn't get to see how many people we actually get to talk to.
Mhm.
And it's staggering. It's 25 to 40 a month that we're talking to between Jess and I, that the team has no idea we're having those conversations.
Oh, I'm sure.
And, we're bringing on 5 to 9 on average, depending on the month. So you're talking about like a 20% success rate. So there's a series of things you can do when meeting with people. You have to interview very well. You have to have great questions picked out.
Yep.
Like one of the questions I love to ask is, what's the hardest thing you've ever been through in your life, and how did you get through that? And then follow up with that with, what did you learn from what you did, and what would you do differently? Because if somebody comes back and says, like, my fifth grade teacher was mean to me, we're going to dig deeper.
Yeah.
We're going to find out, like, everyone at this point has had some serious shit happen in their life.
Yeah, I say that's a pretty easy life if that's the first thing you can draw on.
And if that's truly it, then I'm like, this person just hasn't been through enough shit.
Yeah.
Because the first time a for sale by owner tells you to go F yourself, are you gonna be able to really hang in there?
Yeah.
You gotta be tough in this business.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
The ones that are truly at the top of this business are the ones that have gone through the most shit. And I'll tell you that, man, it's so true. It's so true. So I try to really dig into that. And like, Jess laughs at me because I'll be like, show me your bank account right now. Right? Because if I ask somebody and they're like, yeah, I have enough put away to last 6 months. Do you really? Like, open up your US bank account and show me right now. I want to see.
Yeah, right.
Because it's really easy to lie about that.
Mm-hmm.
But I want to know those things, because I don't want somebody to come in here with 1 month's expenses expecting that some miracle is going to happen. And 45 days down the road, they can't make their rent or their house payment. I'm doing them a disservice if I don't purposefully seek out the information that we're going to need later on.
Yeah, and it's funny too, because I was like, before I started this, I was extremely risk adverse. I made sure I had like 2 years worth saved up before I got into real estate, because it was something I always wanted to do. But like I said, I know that it's 100% commission based. So I was like, I gotta have, as good as I think I'm going to be at it, I have to be prepared in case I'm not.
Absolutely.
So what does your team structure look like? So you got Parker up top. What does the structure look like, kind of working your way down?
Yeah, the org chart, right? So, but at this point, I'm the visionary, the CEO.
Mm-hmm.
I'm the idea guy. I'm the one that has the vision of where this is all going, and it's my job to properly communicate that to not only the staff but to the agents. And that's why you've seen me be more purposeful about talking about abundance and growth, and what growth does for the company, and where we're trying to take this, and why we do things, right?
Yep.
And that was a lesson that I learned halfway through this journey, is that I just wasn't being vocal enough about our actual goals. You see a team go from 20 agents to 50, and people are sitting there like, dude, how big is this team going to get? I liked it when it was small. And you really discover a lot about yourself and about the team and about the agents you have when you go through something like that. And my philosophy and mentality has changed so much for the better going through the last couple of years. And so, you communicate that down through Liz. Liz is, I would say, COO. She's our operations manager, former real estate attorney. She's been with us since day one. So Liz was the first employee at Pemberton Homes and is basically running our company from here.
Mm-hmm.
And that's me delegating those roles to Liz to take control and empower her so that she can run the staff efficiently. And that's the biggest thing that I'm working on, is empowering people to create leaders out of people. Because the more leaders you have in your life around you, the better you are as a person too.
Yep.
At the end of the day, like Tom Ferry told me this back in 2016, he said, Parker, go out and help as many people as possible. Help agents, help homeless people, help your brothers and sisters, help everybody that you can. And at the end of your life, if people can say, that man helped me with something, I'm grateful for that, you're going to be deemed a success story.
Yep.
And in real estate, the more people you can help, the more money you're going to make. So it's kind of a weird concept. Help more people, you get more too.
Yeah.
So that's what I'm going for. And right now, money is not what I'm chasing. I'm chasing time. I'm chasing freedom. I'm chasing, taking Harrison to school every morning and dropping him off, and then seeing him when he gets off the bus when he comes home. I want, truly my goal, this first time I've declared this outwardly, is that, Harrison's 4. I think when he's like 7 or 8, he's going to have an understanding of like what dad does.
Yep.
I don't want my kids to know what I do. I want them to like go to school and be like, I actually don't know what my dad does, because he's around so often.
Yeah.
And he's there, and he's provided a life for us that is extraordinary.
Which is a great goal. And it's like, and I think you had that very early on grind while you can mentality in the beginning. And then you do want to, the whole thing is you want to build a business that you can step away from that kind of runs itself with very little oversight.
Yep.
Or as much as you'd like. So I think that's great. So you touched on it a little bit. What does your role look like now, primarily? The visionary, what goes into that, do you think?
Well, self-improvement, number one, because people aren't going to want to be around somebody that is a mess themselves. So I'm trying to make myself better every single day. Every morning starts with at least a 2 mile walk with the dogs, getting my mind right. I'm eating better. I'm taking care of myself. I'm reading. Like I read like 50 plus books a year, believe it or not. People are like, how do you have time for that? I'm like, well, I don't watch Desperate Housewives. Like, I listen to podcasts, not KDWB.
Yeah.
I watch real estate related YouTube videos versus, the bullshit that's out there now. So I'm just choosing to use my time differently. And I use it to be a better leader, a better person, to be smarter, to have more knowledge. And I think that has to be the role of the CEO. The CEO has to be somebody who's putting their company on the forefront of the marketplace. And if you're not doing that, then you're losing pace to the marketplace. Yep. So I want to make sure we have the best accounts, the best people, the best culture. Culture is a whole nother conversation, but I want people to know that when they're working here, they feel supported and they have fun. And so it's my job to communicate that down throughout the leaders of the company so that the leaders can go and take care of their jobs too. And we track and measure each person. And if somebody's not doing a good job, we have those conversations. And if they're doing a great job, we have those conversations, and I think the more leaders you can create, the stronger a company becomes. And Parker doesn't have to be involved in everything. I've never logged into SkySlope. That's not what I do. Mm-hmm. But if you want to talk about how to get your business back on track, or you want to talk about what you need to do on a daily basis, come sit down, because I have my whole schedule's open to you. All you have to do is pick a time.
Yep.
And that's what I want to be there for the agents. I want to be there for the staff. And, we joke all the time about, golf, but really I golf like once a week. Like we joke about it. Yeah. It's just a funny thing. Freedom to me. Yeah. I wear shorts almost every day when I can, because I want to. Mm-hmm. I think that's something cool that, we're chasing time and freedom. So I want to be able to do whatever I want, whenever I want. And I choose to fill that time with family time and with work time, and occasionally the golf course.
Yeah. Well, I think it's funny too. I got a kick out of, I think when I first started, I felt like I always had to have like a suit coat on and stuff like that. And I find it refreshing that, and I always joke too, when you look at our team picture on the website, you have Steve, your dad, standing right next to you, dressed to the nines in his normal suit. And then you are in polo shorts and like flip-flops, I think. And I find that refreshing too. That's like, don't take yourself too seriously. It can be your style. It doesn't have to be. Yeah. But it's like, I think, you know me, I'm usually in like a polo and maybe like my sweatshirt, like my team branded sweatshirt. But it's like, I like to feel like I can kind of relate to my buyers and sellers at a certain level where it's like, I'm not up here, holier than thou, dressed up all the time. So I'll throw a suit on every once in a while, but
yeah, I think there's a time and place for everything. Right. And you have to dress to your clientele. You have to be appropriate to your clientele.
Yeah.
If your clientele are, skyrise C-level executives that are all suited up, then yeah, you should wear a suit every day.
Yeah.
But I will tell you, I've asked dozens of my clients, like, do you find if I show up in a polo golf shirt, if that's appropriate? Yeah, dude, you could show up in a t-shirt. We don't care.
Yeah.
We want to know that you're knowledgeable, responsible, and you're going to take care of us.
Well, so, I think if you're confident in the way that you do your job and you're not dressed like a slob, I think once you've built that rapport, people like, I know this guy, I like this guy.
Yeah. But I also find again, time and freedom, right? If I have to do something because someone else requires it of me, I don't like it. It's just the way I'm built.
Yep.
Yeah. I said earlier that time and freedom are the things that are most important to me. And it's not money. And because I've made plenty of money, it's the time to do the things I want to do. And it's the freedom to design the lifestyle that I want to live. And my dad was a huge part of that. My dad came from Detroit, Michigan. Him and his brother had to eat out of the back of a bread truck because their family didn't have enough to eat for dinners. Like they would literally have to go and steal food from people to eat. And that's never anything I've had to struggle with. So when you look at the different styles between the two of us, he's a poor kid that came from Detroit that made everything from himself. When the world was supposed to tell him that he was supposed to be unsuccessful, he became very successful. And my dad loves the finer things. He loves the watches and the clothes and the cars, and that's important to him because of the way he was raised. And I can totally understand that. For me, I just want to be the person that I am. I don't want to have to conform to somebody else's standard. I don't want anyone else to tell me what I have to do. And that's not in like a defiant way. You know what I mean? It's just, we're all human one time. We don't know what's going to happen after this.
Yeah.
Like, I want everybody on our team to know that they can be their genuine self and their authentic self. And if they work really hard, they can be really successful. And if you want to wear a suit, dude, wear a suit. Like if you're dealing with high rise condos, C-level suites, executives, wear a suit. You better have a really nice suit, right? And if you're selling in the suburbs, your clients are going to want to be matched to what you're like, right? They don't want you to be suited up to go show them a house in Burnsville for $265.
Yeah.
They're not going to hate on you for it, but that's not the expectation. So I think the advice to agents is be who you genuinely are and work really hard. And then you'll have the option to do either or.
Yeah. And I think now is maybe the greatest time ever to be an entrepreneur, run your own business, because with the rise of social media and just, I feel like people, and I think maybe COVID changed a little bit too, where people like be comfortable, be authentic with who you are. And people want to work with someone who's authentic. I think there was an era where it's like, everyone, you need to be in a suit. You needed to be at a desk 9 to 5 and you needed to look professional. But I think now people are like, kind of just over it. I think people are tired. They're just like, they want to work with someone who's authentic and they can relate to. Like you said, roll up 265, you roll up in like a Mercedes in a full suit. I think people might get an air of pretentiousness, maybe possibly. But if you are working with a higher end client, they might expect that kind of service. So it really is about mirror matching, which we talked about a little bit, but be authentic to you, because people know when you're being fake.
Yeah, 100%. And quite honestly, the more successful you become, the more options you have. You know, I mean, that's the reality of it. But for me, it's not about having to be someone else. Like for my dad, he wanted to be the suit wearing, Mercedes driving, Rolex wearing person because he grew up extremely poor. And I didn't. I mean, I have a leg up, right? I didn't have the silver spoon, but like my parents were there. I ate well. I never had to worry about that. I could go in the neighborhood and play whenever I wanted to. I got to play every sport. I went to a District 196 school. I mean, even though it was Apple Valley, but you know, back then it was better. But I'm like, look, man, like if he grew up that way, and this is somebody who's a role model to me, a mentor, someone that I watch on a daily basis for 30 years, right? Operate. If he can be successful with what he was given, then man, I better work hard, because if not, I'm throwing away the best opportunity in my life.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I show up every day. There's so many reasons why I shouldn't show up every day, why I could just go and do something else. But every day I feel like we're fighting for the position of the team. We're fighting for our jobs. We're fighting for the people. And that's just who I've become at this point.
Well, and I think that's reflective of life in general. There are a million reasons not to do something. You just need to find the one reason to go and do something, because it'd be easy for us to just sit at home and do nothing.
Yeah,
it's harder to get out and actually do that thing. Trying to get you out of here. What does the future of your team look like?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have a crystal ball, and you know, if we're looking at the last 5 years, I would tell you it's constantly changing. And this industry in general has changed a ton, right?
Yep.
The iBuyer wasn't even a thing until like 2020, right?
Yeah.
They didn't have the do not call list back when I started. There were so many things that were different, right? You could pop $10 in Google and get 100 leads.
Yeah.
And now that's what one lead costs. And so a lot is different. So I can't predict the future. What I can predict is that we're going to continue to work as hard as we can to put the best playbook on the field for the players, for the team. So I'm in a pursuit of perfection, of operations, of systems, and of opportunity. What opportunity means is lead generation and the lead accounts that we're associated with. With systems, it's the back-end systems that make the life of the agent easier. The operation side is the staff that we have. And I want to have the best in all three categories. And so I can promise you this, we're going to continue to work extremely hard at that. We're going to continue to bring in great people that are the three keys that we look for, which is amazing energy, unwavering integrity. I know that sounds like chintzy, right? And people that are abundance or growth minded people. Like, I want those three traits in everyone that we hire and bring on. And if you stay here long enough, I can guarantee you'll be a successful real estate agent with a very promising future.
Yeah, and I think that's great, and I think that's a awesome goal to strive for. And I'm sure there's a lot of great things to come for the Pemberton Home Team. I see a lot of good things coming up in the future. So this has been great. Thanks for coming on. I really do appreciate it.
Yeah, my pleasure.
All right,
Thanks, man.
Parker.
Yep.